10 scary kids toys. First up, Furbies. There are way too many theories and stories about Furbies for me to list in this video, so I'll just cover some of the most creepy. Furbies were first released in 1998 and were an immediate hit. The basis behind Furbies were they would interact with you in a way that other toys couldn't, or wouldn't, if you catch my drift. Furbies spoke Furbish or gibberish at first and would gradually learn more English over time. There were many instances of Furbies speaking with no batteries, speaking in a deep, horrifying voice, and saying some rather cryptic things. The most terrifying thing, in my opinion, would have to be the laugh. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night to a spine-chilling laugh, accompanied by some glowing eyes in your closet. To top it all off, Furbies were thought to be spies for the government. So yeah, let that soak in for a moment. Next up, the walking doll. Rosalba Valdez Alvarado became an internet sensation on June 10, 2016, when a video of her was uploaded walking with her 42-year-old doll. This might not have been so intriguing if it weren't for the fact that her doll walked as well. It's creepy to see, but not super frightening. The doll just appears to be shuffling its legs slightly one after the other while holding hands with Rosalba and standing next to her. People believe the doll is haunted or cursed because it only makes these movements with Rosalba. Many people have tried to get the doll to move in the same way, but have ultimately failed. Don't quote me on this, but I heard that Rosalba's daughter had passed away and her spirit is inhabiting the doll, but I could be wrong. Next up, Baby Alive. So Baby Alive had a commercial I remember seeing as a kid, and at some point they just stopped promoting them. Researching this, I found out that Baby Alive was first introduced in 1973, and then again in 1992, and again in 2006. Wow. Why would they keep pulling this doll just to bring it back years later? Well, the original Baby Alive was unable to speak, so the 1992 versions were created to fix that lack of a feature. These dolls didn't do well because the mechanics were too noisy and the doll had a creepy deep voice. It's also interesting to note that the original Baby Alive dolls had a problem with, quote, firing off randomly. Sounds more like a Baby Unalive doll. Next up, Hello Kitty. If you are a 2000s kid, you probably heard from a friend of a friend the story of Hello Kitty. The story goes something like this. A mother makes a deal with the devil in order to save her daughter who has a terminal disease. Granting her request, the devil now instructs the mother to create a toy brand for some reason. The term Hello Kitty actually means Hello Demon. While this can be chalked up to playground gossip, it's still a pretty scary story. Shintaro Tsuji was the real reason for Hello Kitty in 1962. Shintaro found that his rubber sandals sold best with a cute design on them, so he had a designer come up with the now well-known Hello Kitty image. The first Hello Kitty item was a coin purse. Before I move on to the next toy, there's something that I have to say about Hello Kitty. Ignoring the rumors and dark theories, there has been some questionable information dropped by the company behind the famous cat. Hello Kitty is not a cat, but also not a human. They compare Hello Kitty to Mickey Mouse, saying how he is not a human, but also not quite a mouse. Okay, I think I will just accept the playground story of Hello Kitty at this point. Next up, Trolls. Not much to say with the Trolls. The troll dolls are actually based off of a mythological monster known as a troll. You know, the things that hide under bridges. Thomas Dram created the first wooden carved troll doll in Denmark 1950. They instantly became popular and he switched to plastic dolls for efficiency purposes. Also kind of strange, the first of the plastic dolls were filled with wood shavings. I guess he couldn't completely abandon his roots. I'm so sorry for that pun. It wasn't intentional. Next up, Teddy Ruxpin. Teddy Ruxpin toys were another one of those creepy talking stuffed animals. They were first released in 1985 and would scare the boots off of kids for many years after that. This story is from Redditor Kali Savage. Basically, Savage's mom would get her a Teddy Ruxpin doll and claim that it was possessed. Upon interacting with the doll, it would begin by telling her that it liked to be naughty. Okay, at this point, tie a brick around the doll and throw it in the ocean. She would continue to have conversations with the bear, and its responses were always cryptic, sometimes saying how it was sad and how it was afraid of heights. Savage says the responses were always quick, and the bear would often say, "I'm sorry you feel that way," before cutting off abruptly. Remember how it said it was afraid of heights? Well, Savage threatened to put the toy up on the top shelf. The toy then paused for a bit, as if it was processing the audacity of Savage, and then said, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and cut off. After that, the bear rarely, if ever, worked for her. But when it came to her little brother, the bear would begin its creepy questions. It would ask what the boy liked to do when he was alone, and if he was naughty. Upon hearing these things at night, the mom would turn the toy off, only to find it was already in the off position. This is just a summary of the story, so if you want to check it out, I will include the link in the description. Teddy Ruxpin was before my time, but honestly, I feel like I lucked out. Next up, Cabbage Patch Kids. Cabbage Patch Kids were first introduced in 1993 and were an instant hit. A hideous hit. There were so many different Cabbage Patch Kids with their own unique traits. The creators of Cabbage Patch Kids, Mattel, wanted to set themselves apart from their competition. Thus, the Snack Time Cabbage Kid was born. This toy had the ability to eat whatever was put in its mouth. It was so successful at doing this, kids began shoving whatever they could get their hands on in its face. One parent would soon see the true horror of this design. The Snack Time Kid, however it was able to do this, would begin munching on her daughter's hair. The mom had no choice but to cut her daughter's hair to free it from becoming a snack for Snack Time Kid. This was not an isolated incident either, and because of the obvious hazards associated with the toy, Mattel offered customers a $40 refund for the doll and recalled them. There are so many things that could have gone wrong with that toy. I can only guess that the design team got a reprimand for such a lack of foresight. At the very least, they should not have gotten a Christmas bonus. Next up, the Jack in the Box. Jack in the Boxes have always creeped me out, and no, it's not because I was scared of clowns as a kid. I was, but that had nothing to do with it. They have creepy faces and look suspicious, like they are up to no good. Well, it turns out this was actually intentional. Jack in the Boxes are rumored to be demon-catching devices. Some of the earliest Jack in the Boxes were made in 15th century France, and were called Diable en Boîte, or Devil in a Box. I knew you couldn't trust a clown, let alone a tiny one that jumps out at you. Next up, Facebank. WTF is this? I have never seen this before, and I don't want to look at it anymore. But it's on the list, so let's get through this. Okay, so from what I was able to find, apparently this thing is supposed to look freaky. It was first released July 2017. This piggy bank will eat your child's spare change when it isn't inducing nightmares. Seriously, the stuff people come up with is absolutely insane. If you have one of these in your house, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to contact your local priest, telling them to exorcise your house and send the ungodly thing back to where it came from. They will know exactly what you mean. Last on this list is Tickle Me Elmo. Okay, first off, let me just say Elmo was like my favorite thing growing up, and so much so I even had a Tickle Me Elmo doll myself. Needless to say, it was very creepy. I think my older siblings enjoyed it more than me. But anyway, Tickle Me Elmo was released in 1996 and did extremely well. Most of the creepiness comes from the way Tickle Me Elmo looks without his fur. Additionally, Elmo would have some scary phrases. For example, Elmo knows where you live. He's a menace. I'm kidding. That wasn't one of his phrases. He would say, ooh, or that tickles, or laugh uncontrollably while shaking like he was experiencing withdrawal. Researching this, I saw how some people recommend you don't play hide and seek with Elmo. I'm going to take that one step further and say don't play hide and seek with any toys. Worst case scenario, they understand the rules and play a fair game.